Sorry.
No, it's okay. We'll just.
Or wait, maybe. Yeah, no, that's the same thing. Wait. Here, got it. No, guest request. There's nothing.
Okay, yeah, we'll,
Sorry, I tried.
No, it's okay. Yeah, let me just. What is this? This is reviewers. Okay, they're starting. That's okay. What is shit?
Sorry.
Hi everyone. Hey, we're here, y'all. We are here in the heat and everything. So I appreciate you guys for sticking it out with us. Again, just a couple housekeeping rules. If you need water, you need to take a cooling break, please see the inside of the building. There's also water here on the table. But we certainly appreciate all of you for being here. We appreciate Senator Sanders for being here with us, Congresswoman Tlaib, Representative Dingo, Representative Levin, and certainly our host and our guest speakers for being here with us today. So just to give honor to who space we're in, I would love to have an introduction from Eastside Community Network. If I could have Ms. Donna Gibbons welcome us to the stage.
All right, welcome to ECN. Eastside Community Network will build people, places, and plans for sustainable neighborhood development on Detroit's East Side. We have seen our share of climate challenges in this community, haven't we? Floods, we've seen heat, we've had energy blackouts, and our people are struggling as a result of this. I don't look at what happened this year as the problem in our community. What I look at is the fact that in Tennessee, there were 17 inches of rain. In Tennessee, 200 people died. And when you look at the climate vulnerability of Detroit, if we don't do something now, and not something minor, something major, if we do not adjust our public policy, if we do not support these infrastructure investments, we will be looking years from now at 17 inches here. And when we look at 17 inches in Tennessee, look what happened in Europe this summer. And understand where we are headed. Tennessee is 500 miles from the ocean, and yet it flooded there. It can flood here because it's the heat and it's humidity that causes this problem. So we got to do something in our community. We've got to fight for change. We have a climate equity department in our organization, and we will be meeting with you soon if you are a Detroiter on the east side to address these issues from a community organizing standpoint, so we can try to push our public policy locally to where it needs to be. And then I want to thank the speakers who are here today, who are looking at the national level and say, what do we need to do from a federal perspective to make sure that communities have the resources they need to do the right thing. And so with that, thank you and welcome to our home. You are welcome anytime. Thank you.
Give it up for Ms. Donna, our fearless leader on the East Side for Eastside Community Network. We're certainly grateful for your leadership, Ms. Donna. So now we'll have some opening remarks from our Congresswoman, Rashida Tlaib.
Thanks so much, Larissa. Give it up for Larissa. Larissa and the team have been working around the clock to making sure that our families during this power outage and flooding is getting resources. It's been really, really difficult and so hard. So I just can't thank enough my team. In the middle of all this, Bernie's like, I want to come to Detroit. I said, okay, everyone, we got to make this happen. So I just can't thank you all enough for doing such great work. So Bernie, welcome. Welcome to the community that raised me. Why today is so important is it's very rare to get someone that is in such an incredibly important position in Congress. I mean, the chair of the Senate Budget Committee is not wanting to just have hearings in Washington, D.C., but he wants to come here and listen to you all, hear your questions, help you understand what is happening in Washington, D.C. and Congress, especially with reconciliation, this word that somehow I didn't even know anything about until I started saying, well, wait, that's a pathway to making sure my folks have resources they need to getting clean drinking water in the schools? Then yes, I want to know more. And so it's so unbelievably important that Senator Sanders is coming here, and I know he's been in Indiana, and I believe he's going to Ohio and Iowa and all kinds of places. And so he's coming here because he wants to make sure that you understand what's happening in Congress and how it impacts your life. So you all know I've been on the front lines and working on this issue around poverty in our community that is so interconnected with what's happening regarding climate, regarding so much that's happening with our families. You all know I told this story before, but it's so important to know this. One of my parents came up to me, one of our neighborhood service centers. You know, she was in tears. This was some years ago, Senator. And she was in tears, and she was telling me that she needed a new place to send her kids for this pre-K like program, like an early childhood program. And I said, it's okay, I'm gonna find you a place, don't worry. And she's like, but you don't understand, Rashida. I need a place that can feed my child twice a day. See, people need to understand that people's infrastructure, what it means when we talk about it, what the care economy, all that means, how it means to our lives, what it means to our lives, that we gotta think beyond just roads and bridges. Yes, they're important, but we gotta talk about the processes and structures that support our families. You know, when I went through Cass Tech this sometime years ago, yes, and Senator Sanders met the youth there, he couldn't believe this, that we have a brand new built school and no clean drinking water out of the fountains. So when I think about the reconciliation process, the people's infrastructure, I think about complete replacement of lead-contaminated pipelines. That's it. Enough. You all know this is so important to our district, but no child should ever have no access to clean drinking water. And we also have to go deeper in that understanding that clean water and clean air is so interconnected to racial justice. You all know this. Wayne County hasn't met Clean Air Act standards in over 15 years, y'all. I mean, sulfur dioxide, the ozone, all of it. We haven't in 15 years. And Debbie knows this because she and I talk about this all the time. About time that we demand infrastructure that supports us getting access to clean air, and that means addressing our climate. And so it is so important, again, you all, many of you come from nonprofit organizations. You're on the ground talking to Black Club leaders. You know how it's done. And when Maxine Waters says housing is infrastructure, you need to explain to people what she means. Because you can't just talk about infrastructure and roads and outside of homes. You got to talk about safe, healthy living homes, access to housing. All of that to say, this is why Senator Sanders is here. He needs our help. He needs our partnership to getting the word out to the American people, to all of our neighbors, and understanding reconciliation may be like a foreign object, but guess what? It is the pathway to the people's infrastructure, to the care economy. And President Biden is behind us. He is saying we want to build back better, right? And it's not just a slogan. If you think about every integral part of what he's proposing, it is the people's infrastructure. It is the care economy. And many of my colleagues here are going to talk about it. They're all working extremely hard and trying to make sure us as members of the Progressive Caucus, as members of communities that really need to go beyond just what we see before us from coming out from some colleagues, we need to push more. We have children all around us. They deserve a future, y'all. They deserve something better. And so I am so incredibly proud to be able to introduce one of my colleagues. I always, they call us double trouble when we're both upset. But you know, you can't go through my district without going through Debbie Dingell's district. And so when you see us standing up in front of the refinery or AK Steel or in front of our schools or anything, I'll tell you, when the corporations see us talking together, I think they get a little scared, right? I think so, a little bit, right, Debbie? Yeah. So Debbie Dingell, who represents a lot of our neighboring Wayne County and Washtenaw County, she's here to talk about why the People's Infrastructure Build Back Better plan is so incredibly important to Michigan. With that, Debbie Dingell.
Thank you, Rashida. She is my sister. And anybody listening better know we are double trouble. But as they're marching in Washington today, the Voting Rights Act, we know how to get into good trouble. So, good afternoon. I can't tell you how great it is to be with Rashida, my colleague Sandy Levin. I want to thank the Eastside Community Network for hosting us. And I'm really happy to be here with the Michigan Environmental Justice Coalition, We the People of Detroit, and Michigan United, who are friends that I saw Metro Wayne back there too. You're all the nonprofits are here. I'm going to get in trouble. Rashida's going to give me the evil eye, if I start. But we work with so many of you, and I'm really glad to welcome the senator to Michigan today to talk about what we're going to do. And we're going to actually lose the word reconciliation because nobody knows what it means. And we're going to talk about Build Back Better plan because we need to. You know, yesterday we had the 6th once-in-a-lifetime storm in 7 weeks. It flooded again in my hometown. Bernie, 20,000 homes in my hometown have been flooded, damaged. Detroit, it's the same kind of numbers. Southfield was closed again. People came, the people in Dearborn Heights, the water goes to their first floor windows. Every time we have a storm, we're in tears, asked us to come look again. Does anybody really want to say global climate change isn't real? It's here, and we got to get ready for it, and we got to do something about it. And the time is now. No more. We got to invest. We got to fix our damn roads. But we got to do a lot of other stuff. We got to. COVID shined a light on internet and how we don't have high-speed internet in the cities or in our urban areas. That needs to happen. But I also want to tell you, all right, we have Chrysler plant behind us. I am proud of the fact that Michigan put the world on wheels. Well, now Michigan's going to lead the world on reducing carbon emissions. Transportation, we are. It's time. Transportation is 30% of carbon emissions. I stood at the White House 3 weeks ago with the president when the car companies, believe it or not, the autos themselves, have set a target with the president, the environmentalists. I was there with the UAW, and we're going to target 50% sales of EVs by the year 2030. That's good. But you know what? It won't happen if we don't build out the infrastructure. We got to do that. That's going to be in this bill. But I want to talk about how 3 million women have left the work, have had to leave during COVID-19, the workplace. Why? I love the men. I love you all. But the fact of the matter is, women are the caregivers. We're the child caregivers. We're the older caregivers. We're sandwich generation. It is time in this country that we address that problem and take care of our children and our seniors. It's time. The Oxford Dictionary says infrastructure is processes or systems that support a country's efficient organization, running organization, or a company's. Okay, what's more important than making sure that our children and our seniors are taken care of? It is time. So we need to talk about it. We need to stop having people make us feel defensive. This is a once in a lifetime opportunity to make the difference. Can any of you imagine living without Social Security? Can any of you imagine living without Medicare? This is the next chapter in making sure we're taking care of our communities and people. So please help us teach America why we must build back better, and the time is now.
You see? She makes me look calm. Yes, she does. I love it. Now, next, you have to know, Senator, one day maybe, Representative Andy Levin is our champion, y'all. We have a Michigan delegation member that is on education and labor. And let me tell you, people forget, he used to literally run our state's labor department, employment and labor department. On our delegation calls, you have no one else that is so incredibly knowledgeable, a passionate advocate for those in the workforce. He knows what people's rights are in the workplace, but he also knows what's the backbone of our economy is building up our education system and accessibility. And so I know Representative Levin is passionate about pre-K and about college, community college being free and accessible. And again, I can't thank him enough. When I need help in trying to understand what is happening with our education and again, workforce, he is the person I lean on, and we are very, very blessed to have him as part of our Michigan delegation. With that, Andy Levin.
All right. Wow. So great to be here with my sister, Rashida Tlaib. You are lucky to have Rashida and my sister, Debbie Dingle. But look, with all our problems, you got to admit, there is something right about American democracy when Bernie Sanders is the head of the Budget Committee of the United States Senate. That's something right about our democracy. And that gives me hope. It personally gives me hope. So, the Build Back Better budget. Rashida's right. I've spent a lot of time on Connor because I used to run the workforce system of this state, all the job training. But you know what? I built No Worker Left Behind. Bernie, we put 162,000 un- and underemployed workers back to school during the auto implosion and the Great Recession. I'm proud of that, but you know what else I'm going to be honest with you about? They didn't keep it going after we left because 98% of the funding for training workers in this country comes from the federal government, and unless we stand up and deliver in the Build Back Better budget, our workers don't have a chance to get the skills they need for the good jobs of the future. So that's in here, in the Build Back Better budget. But also, isn't it time that the suburbs stand with the city and demand justice for all of our people? I represent Macomb and Oakland counties, y'all, and I'm down here proudly in Detroit saying we need to take care of all of our babies. We need to take care of all of our young people. Everybody's basement floods in Macomb, Oakland, Wayne, all over this state and this country, and we've got to stick together and fight for racial and economic justice for everybody. And that's what we're going to do through this budget. All right, I just want to focus on this one thing that Rashida mentioned. This budget, $3.5 trillion is our goal under Bernie's leadership in the Senate and John Yarmouth in the House. And it includes greatly expanded child care so that moms and dads can go to work and not have to worry about their kids. It includes greatly expanded pre-K so our young kids can get a good start, a Head Start, and it puts money into Head Start, but also into other pre-K programs so that they can be ready for school and they can get the nutrition they need and the care they need early in their life, the most important years. But it also includes my America's College Promise Act. We are talking about whether you're in Oakland Community College or Wayne County Community College District or Macomb Community College, all across this country, free, tuition-free, and fee-free community college for every young person and person who's got to go back, worker who's got to go back for training, all across this land. It's about time, isn't it? Plus 2 years of free college at any historically black college or university or other minority-serving institution all across this land. And I stand here with Debbie Dingle. She is right. Don't talk to me about infrastructure and it's this pavement. Okay, that's important. And I want union brothers and sisters pouring all the pavement and smoothing all the pavement. Those got to be good jobs. But infrastructure is the ability of our families to breathe. The ability to live with dignity. The ability to get an education and not be buried with debt. And that is what we said we were going to pass this bipartisan thing, 1 month from today almost. So we have got to get to work and pass the Build Back Better budget to lift up the people of this country and let them breathe free at last. Thank you all very much.
Thank you. We are really, truly blessed to have such an incredibly strong Michigan delegation, so could please give them a round of applause again. You guys know Senator Sanders, I call him Ammo, which means uncle in Arabic. He is always going to be my Ammo because there is something about a person that doesn't get enough credit for the fact that he centers everything that he does with people on the ground. And he goes all across the country, not just in his home state. And he understands the importance of bringing us with him as he talks about this budget, because it needs to be reflective of our values, y'all. And the only way to do that is to bring you all along, not just have those folks testifying in various committee hearings that don't really get to talk to us. They don't get to see what we're doing and what we're struggling with. And so, please, understand the critical importance of him picking up the phone and saying, I want to come to Detroit and come to Michigan and talk to our families. We are truly blessed to have him as chair of the Budget Committee in the Senate. He is continuing to bring workers and to bring people on the ground that, again, are frontline communities like ours to talk about that continued struggle. And it is really, truly an honor to introduce all of you all to my Amo, my senator, always, Senator Bernie Sanders.
Let me begin by trying to figure out how to get this stamp thing. Let me thank people of Michigan for sending to the Congress Rashida, Debbie, Andy, three of the outstanding progressive leaders in Washington. Their jobs are hard, but I got to tell you, because I work with all of these guys, they're doing a fantastic job, and I thank them all. Now, we've heard the word reconciliation, and nobody in America knows what that word means. What it is, and by the way, if you ever have trouble sleeping at night, go to the Senate rules. Put you to sleep in about 2 seconds. But reconciliation, bottom line, is a process in which you can pass legislation, with restrictions, by the way, with 50 votes rather than 60 votes. And sad to say that my Republican colleagues, our Republican colleagues, who are hot to trot to give trillions of dollars in tax breaks to the rich and large corporations, they were ready to go through reconciliation to throw 30 million people off of health care by repealing the Affordable Care Act. That's how they use reconciliation. We're using it in a different way. We are doing it in a way that will provide the most consequential piece of legislation for working people in our lifetimes. That is what this is about. And we're going to do that, sad to say, without one Republican vote. And at the end of the day, we're going to need the Vice President of the United States to cast the tie-breaking vote, probably at 5 o'clock in the morning. All of you know two facts. Number one, that in America, the wealthy and large corporations are doing phenomenally well, right? Rich are getting much richer. They got so much money they can't even spend it here on Earth. They're off in outer space spending their money. A lot of our people worry how they can afford a car. These guys are busy buying spaceships. All right? That's what they do with their money. And what we also know is that many of these billionaires in a given year, and many of these large corporations in a given year, pay less in federal income tax than you do. In some years, they pay 0. Now, Republican friends are saying, well, we can't pass this because we're going to raise taxes. You're right. We are finally going to raise taxes on the rich and large corporations who are not paying their fair share of taxes. No apologies to be made. You have heard what this bill does. Does it go as far as Rashida and Debbie and Andy and I would like it to go? No. but it goes further than any piece of legislation in our lifetimes. You've heard some of it, I just want to touch on it and show you what we have done and will do. Shamefully, the richest country on earth, the United States, has historically had the highest rate of childhood poverty of any major country on earth. As a result of the American Rescue Plan and those direct payments that many of you received, those $1,600 checks, the $400 checks, as a result of the $300 per month payments that working parents are now receiving per child. You got 2 kids, $600. We have reduced childhood poverty by over 50%. And for black and brown communities, the numbers are higher. How's that? And what this reconciliation bill is about is whether we continue that program. The American Rescue Plan was an emergency program, 1 year. Those payments, my friends, will expire unless we pass this reconciliation bill. Andy told you that we are going to revolutionize childcare in America. Right now, $15,000 a year on average. Who the hell can afford $15,000 if you're making $40,000 or $50,000? Our goal, no family in America pays more than 7%. How's that? Rashida talked about pre-K. We are going to make pre-K for 3- and 4-year-olds free, part of public education. Debbie Dingell has been working on Medicare for years. All of us believe in a Medicare for all single-payer program. That is not in this bill. That fight continues to be waged. But what is in this bill, what we are proposing and fighting for, is an expansion of Medicare for seniors to cover dental, hearing aids, and eyeglasses. And to lower the age of eligibility. These guys have already talked about home health care. How many people do you know who are forced into nursing homes because they don't have the home health care they need? They'd rather stay home. We're going to significantly expand home health care, pay those workers a living wage so that they can take care of the elderly and the disabled at home. We are finally going to take on the greed and thievery of the pharmaceutical industry. The crooks that charge us the highest prices in the world for prescription drugs, Medicare will start negotiating prescription drug prices. We are going to build. We are going to invest more in affordable and low-income housing than any time in the history of this country. And finally, we are going to deal with what you have heard from Rashida and others, the existential threat of climate. It is beyond I really don't understand it, quite frankly. Our Republican colleagues have children, they have grandchildren, and how in God's name they can look those children and grandchildren in the eye and ignore the destructive forces of climate change and what kind of planet we're going to be leaving to those kids. And what we do in this bill is put hundreds of billions of dollars to transform our energy system away from fossil fuel. We put money into communities like Detroit that are already suffering significantly the brunt of climate change and what it means in terms of flooding, and lack of electricity. So this bill will be the largest single investment by far in American history in climate. And when we do all those things, when we deal with climate, we deal with housing, we deal with childcare, we deal with home health care, you know what else we are doing? We are putting millions of people to work at good-paying union jobs. I think that in Vermont, I know that here in Michigan and Detroit, a lot of people are giving up on the political process. They're seeing the rich getting richer and they continue to struggle. What is behind this bill, what the 3 of us and 4 of us are working on, is to finally say to working families in this country, you know what? In a democratic society, government is supposed to work for ordinary people, for working people, for lower income people, not just the rich and the powerful. So this, to my mind, is a beginning of transforming our country, have a government that works for all rather than the few. And I again want to thank all of you. I know many of you are involved in grassroots organizations. Thank you so much for what you're doing, and thank you for electing these 3 great members of the Congress. Thank you.
Gave a really big round of applause, but let's give a round of applause to our Michigan delegation for being here, for Senator Sanders. So thank you so much. So now we'll have some brief remarks from some of our few local organizers who've been on the ground dealing with a lot of the climate justice issues we see in our district. So we would love to have next Michelle Martinez from the Michigan Environmental Justice Coalition.
Good afternoon. That last little bit of energy you got with this heat. I'm going to try to keep it short. This is Ismael, my 5-year-old. I want to say thank you to Senator Sanders so much for being our champion on the Senate side. Time and time again, we call his office and always they're picking up the phone. Thank you to our Michigan delegation, our champions who are fighting for us in Washington, D.C. A big round of applause. This summer has been absolutely devastating. This summer has been hard, y'all. It's been hard. Not only with the tragedies of COVID-19, the hard work of keeping families together, taking care of each other when we have to make difficult decisions of sending our kids back to school for teachers who have to go back to that classroom. When the flooding happened on the June 28th, 29th, it was America Yahya who was Facebook messaging me, we gotta do something right now to make sure that our neighbors are safe. And this is how community responds. We respond by showing up for one another. We respond by checking in on our neighbors. We respond by going to the grocery store for them when their car is stalled out on Jefferson. We are the ones who are responding for one another because Detroit is so strong. We got our backs. We got us. And now we need Congress to take bold and swift action so that these kind of tragedies that keep happening, power outages that keep happening, don't continue to happen. There's so much that I'm excited for in the Build Back Better. I'm excited to be able to think about my kids going to an air-conditioned and safe school. That's what excites me. I'm excited about throwing away those little plastic and cone cups, throwing them out and being able to see water flowing from the drinking fountain again. That's what I'm excited about. I'm excited about having power and electricity no matter how hard the wind blows, and thinking, hey, maybe I can have solar on my rooftop. And maybe Miss Jackie across the street will have solar on her rooftop. And maybe on the west side, we'll have community solar and a strong grid so that people who want to stay home safely for work have internet. They have internet and they're not losing power, internet, water, and their basements are flooded every summer. So thank you so much to the congressional members here who are carrying that for us. The other thing I'm excited about is clean air. And let me tell you, over the last 15 years, if you've been working in the environmental justice movement, you know when it's hot like this, your lungs swell up. They swell up from that ozone. And if you have family who has asthma, COPD, breathing problems, they're in the hospital on a breathing treatment. And it's just going to get hotter and hotter with this climate. We don't need the United Nations to tell us that climate change is happening faster and more furious. We can see it right here happening in our own homes and in our streets. So yes, we want to tell Congress to build back better. Build back better. Build back better. Build back better.
Build back better.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you so much, Michelle, for those remarks. That's right. We're going to build back better. So the next speaker we have is from Michigan United. We have Pastor Presley. Pastor Presley?
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
It is hot out here. So I will be as brief as possible, which is difficult for a Baptist pastor, but pray for me. To all of our great dignitaries who are here today, it is such an honor to have this opportunity to advocate on behalf of people and families. Because when we talk about this Build Back Better budget, it is not only about roads and bridges, but it's about our people and our families. And that means that we have to understand this not only as a political issue, but it's a moral issue. Because I know that there might be some who might be led to believe that on the matter of politics, we are divided. But I come to suggest that on the matter of morality, we are more united than we are divided. And this is why we see that here in Michigan, over 80% of Michiganders are in support of education and care being part of this Build Back Better budget. And I know that that's many of us here, right? We're a part of this Build Back Better budget in order to take care of our families and our people. And so what does that mean? That means that first of all, we make sure that every child has access to a wonderful education. That's not a political issue, that's a moral issue. To make sure that families are able to feed their children. That is not a political issue, that's a moral issue. To ensure that people are paid a living wage, that is not a political issue, that's a moral issue. And the way that you judge a moral character of a country is not by how it builds its roads and bridges, but how it cares for its people and its families. And so we stand at Michigan United in unity with our legislators who are working very diligently to ensure that our families and our peoples are kept a priority in this reconciliation process. And so we're believing that as a result of their diligent work, that we will see minimum wage increase to $15 an hour. We're believing that by their work, that we will see the passing of the PRO Act, which will allow care workers to unionize. We're believing that as a result of their work, that we can extend the access to child care to families all across this state and across this country. And so I am a firm believer that when a country cares for its family and its people, it has secured its future. And that is what we must fight and advocate for as we commit ourselves to building back better. Be blessed.
Thank you so much, Pastor Presley. So we're trying to get through this agenda as quickly as possible because we know it's hot outside. But I know that folks have questions and what this means. How do we activate ourselves here at the local community in the 13th Congressional District? So I think we'll take maybe just one question and then we'll transition into another part of our program. So we, again, appreciate you all for being here and sticking it out with us in the sun. So I guess the question that I would like to ask our panelists, maybe Senator Sanders and our Michigan congressional delegation, how does this plan impact our residents here in the district right now, and how can we activate ourselves at the local level to get energized and build back better?
This legislation in a profound way is going to impact virtually everybody in Michigan, everybody in America. And what this will do, and you have heard it, it is going to create not only jobs, meaningful jobs, in building housing, in addressing climate crisis. Those are going to be good paying and often union jobs. So if you want good paying jobs, you got to support the reconciliation bill. You are dealing here, as we have all discussed, with the impact of climate. And guess what? unless we act boldly, it ain't gonna get any better. It's gonna get worse. We can create millions of jobs nationally by transforming our energy system and leading the world in fighting climate change. As the pastor just reminded us, the future of America is our children. We cannot turn our back on little kids. This legislation will give a real shot in the arm, free pre-K, massive help in childcare. Millions of families will have to pay a nickel for childcare. Nobody pays more than 7%. Building affordable housing. Essentially, what we have done in this bill is take a hard look at the problems facing our country and say, you know what? We're finally going to address those problems. That will impact Michigan, it'll impact Vermont, it'll impact not only our entire country, it will lead the world, I believe, in a new direction.
I think we're going to do this. So the question was, what can we do now to activate? Many of you, again, are part of networks. Some of you are, community members without title, but some of you come from movement work. What can you do now to really try to get people moving towards the Build Back Better plan?
So 15 years before I frequented Connor as working on workforce policy. What I really am is a union organizer, and I did thousands of house visits to nursing home workers all over the city, organizing them into what was then SEIU Local 79. Anyone old enough to remember Local 79 over on Grand River? Oh yeah. So I think that what we need you to do, write letters, email, call our offices, whoever you're, all that. But I'm into storytelling, y'all. I'm into you organizing. If there's a union struggle going on, and if the boss is crushing those workers, we need you to lift up that story and tell that story, because we've got in this bill to help pay for it, a little teeny part of it, right, Bernie? Real significant penalties against bosses who fire workers or mistreat workers when they're trying to form a union. So we need to lift up their stories. Whatever your organization focuses on, if you can do an event, highlight someone's story about their flooded basement, about their child care situation, about their nutrition situation in their family, and tell us those stories. And we want to share with you the burden of telling those stories so that we really get the word out that the Build Back Better budget is the answer to the people's cries for justice in this country. We've got to make it more urgent, and you can play a huge role in making it not just a bunch of words from politicians, but the stories of the people demanding justice.
And I think that's what is so important, is making this so real for people. I always think of my immigrant mother, like, I can't go to her and talk about this in a way that, like, folks in D.C. talk about, and they use all these acronyms that I can't stand. But it is really about those stories, like Andy said. But, many people don't realize this pathway to clean water is in the reconciliation, y'all, in the Build Back Better plan. The pathway to really getting clean air and really moving away from fossil fuel and dirty air is in this bill. To talk about all the direct services that needs to be on the ground, maybe from childcare to food assistance to a number of issues, is in this. Make it real for people. This is something that I couldn't have dreamed of would be a possibility. And we have to have people understand we are very close. We are so incredibly close. We just passed it out of the House. It's now in the Senate. We got to build up that power on the ground. Grace Lee Boggs taught young activists like me in Detroit. She said it didn't matter who was in the White House or who was in Congress. You may say a little bit, but what mattered was the movement work in the streets. That's how we delivered Civil Rights Act. That's how we delivered the labor rights movement. Was how we were able to do it is when there was consciousness here on the ground. And so you all got to do it. And I know it's not easy, but there are faith-based communities that have not been engaged on this. There are folks even in the nonprofit arena that are servicing folks that are like, oh, this is politics, I don't want to deal with it. But no. This is a pathway for your families to get out of poverty. This is a pathway for your families to get access to education, to real jobs that you can actually retire and get benefits and all these other things. So we got to make it real for our folks. And it's getting harder now to reach those individuals because we don't want to talk about it. But I'm asking all of you, it's time to have those conversations with those pastors. It's time to have those conversations with some of those leaders. We got to do it now. And they're with us. But we got to push them to understand that they matter now more than ever in getting this through the Senate and on the president's desk. And so, again, there is so much right here. This $3.5 trillion, if folks want to focus on the numbers, but behind those numbers are real people that our lives are going to change dramatically. And so it's so incredibly important. I know they want to, because it's really hot, y'all. I don't know, you guys, this tent is way too small, Senator. But we're going to, if there's any questions, we can take maybe 2 or 3 questions from the audience. Okay.
Good afternoon. My question is a little bit off topic. I want to let you know, Senator, while you're here, that Detroit has a huge issue that's not really being addressed the way it is. The city of Detroit stole $600 million from its residents by overtaxing its lowest income valued homeowners, taxes we didn't owe. So the Coalition for Property Tax Justice, organizations like the one I'm a part of, the Detroit Justice Center, we fight and we follow the legal pathway by doing appeals to get people's property tax assessment lowered to what it's supposed to be. But I wanted to let you know this is a particular problem in the city of Detroit, which, let's be honest, is a majority black city that we need addressed on the federal level. We need help because the powers that be in Detroit are just not paying us any attention, and they're pushing out residents that built this city. So I appreciate you being here, and I am behind this bill that you all are pushing, and I will rally people behind myself to be behind this bill. But you need to know what's going on with the lowest income valued people here.
Yeah, I think the Chairwoman Maxine Waters' Housing and Infrastructure Bill is a pathway to have a real conversation about accountability for local governments as they implement these policies on the federal level. I know many of us were very disappointed to see so much of the hardest hit funds and other funds being used to tear down homes that we could have had people stay in their homes. And I know I saw my block completely transform. We had the worst foreclosure crisis in Wayne County than anywhere in the nation. And many of you know this, and you, Senator, heard me say this, but we lost more black homeownership in the state of Michigan than any other state in the union. And so we know we have to hold folks accountable because we can get these dollar amounts, but we have to have accountability because implementation matters. You all know I'm a social worker at heart. We can put all kinds of dollars, but if it's not equitable and holding folks accountable to some of these injustices that continue to happen, it's not going to happen. But I know, and you all know, the coalition knows, Secretary Fudge needs to look into this matter. And I know that she's very much aware of it. And I know that's why part of the reconciliation will have the Restoring Local Communities Act, which it's $5 billion. And much of that could be used for a tax foreclosure crisis right now in our country. But again, accountability matters at the local level.
And question from Michelle Jackson.
Hello, how are you? I just would like to know, what is it that you guys, besides getting people to rally behind you right now, what is the need right now for us right here, boots on the ground, to do today, tomorrow, next week?
I'll tell you what it is. And that is to ask your seven Republican members in the Michigan delegation, ask them why they think it is more important to protect the wealth of the few than the needs of ordinary working people. It is a disgrace. You know, the pastor mentioned there's politics and morality. All right, I'm involved in politics. But there is no excuse for saying that we cannot tax billionaires in order to deal with the issues that are here in Detroit. There's no moral excuse for that. Demand to know why these 7 members are not supporting this legislation.
We'll take one more question.
Brandon, my legs are small. Okay. I saw his hand raised. I'm sorry.
It's so great to be here and hear you all speak. I was curious, how do we convince borderline independents or right-leaning, slightly right-leaning Republicans to care about climate justice and the prevalent issues of Medicare for all and the issues that are affecting every American, no matter where you fall on the political spectrum?
You know, polling is far from accurate in many cases, but what I believe to be the case based on what I have seen, in fact, that we have a very significant number of working class Republicans, not the rich, but working class Republicans who are supportive of what we're trying to do. Because at the end of the day, you know what? If you are a working class Republican and you got a child, you're going to need some help in this day and age. You're going to need a decent paying job. In terms of climate, I think we are beginning painfully to win over more and more people. You know why? Not because of what the United Nations is saying. It's because what they are seeing with their own eyes. All right, if you continue to have massive floods that 20 or 30 years ago did not occur, you don't have to be a scientist to figure out that something weird is going on. In Vermont, we are breathing the smoke 3,000 miles away from Oregon's fire. The smoke from the Siberian fire is going thousands of miles, impacting people's health. You gotta be a moron not to understand that what's going on is real and is dangerous. And it's not good enough to say, oh, isn't it terrible today, but it'll get better in the future. It won't. Not unless we lead the rest of the world. And by the way, we cannot even do it alone. China is a bigger emitter than we are. This world is going to have to come together and understand that we are in a world war. And every country is going to be part of that war, fighting against climate change for the people in our country, China, India, and all over this world. That's what we got to do.
I just want to add one thing, but first, I'm so happy that Democracy Summer is in the house. So let's hear it for these young people who are out on the streets all summer fighting for our voting rights and our democracy. Okay. I think the answer is we just have to deliver. Don't give me another speech about $15 an hour. Give me my $15 an hour. Don't give me another speech about the freedom to form unions. Let me form a union at my workplace if I damn well please to. And don't give me child tax credits for a minute. Give me $250 for every one of my kids 6 and over, and $300 a month for every kid 5 and under, forever. Because I got to raise kids in America. It costs a lot of money to put food on the table. So we started with the American Rescue Plan, but I think that we will be ready to win people over when we actually put food on their table and money in their pocket. It's high time we did it, and with the leadership of Senator Sanders, we're going to do it right now.
All right, Judy, get up. Just tell me what the question is.
It's real simple, right? Because we know we're speaking to the choir. We're on board. And you hit on something, Senator Sanders. You said there are Republicans who are supportive. Who are they? Because that's who we can be in target. We may have
Got it.
in those districts.
I will tell you who they are. They are working class Republicans, the people who work. And one of the interesting, well, there are many millions of them, but here's the irony. You know, people say, well, there's no bipartisanship in Washington. It's true, but there is bipartisanship down here at the grassroots level. You tell me, if you're a working class dad and you got 2 kids and you can't afford to feed them, you know what? You want that $300 a month, right? And you want inexpensive and quality childcare. You want a good paying job. What we got, and maybe let me close on this one. All of you know this. We got today in America politicians who are trying to divide our people up based on the color of their skin or where they were born or their sexual orientation or their religion or whatever it may be. That's what they do. And that's how they think they're going to get elected. Our job is to do exactly the opposite. Because we're all in this together. Climate change impacts every man, woman, and child on this planet. I don't care the color of your skin or where you were born. Healthcare is a need of everybody. We're all going to go to the doctor. We all need medical help. Our job is to bring people together around a people's agenda. Whether they're Republican, Independent, or Democrat, we're making some progress. In Washington, we're not. But our job is to demand to know why these 7 Republicans from Michigan in the House are more important, more interested in representing the wealthy campaign contributors than they are their constituents. Listen, you guys, this is a tough moment for the country. And I know it's easy to get discouraged. But I want to tell you that with your great members of Congress here and your great grassroots leaders, we are making progress. We've got to continue the fight. The future of the planet and the well-being of millions of people is at stake. Let's go forward together. Thank you so much.
Now, this is our marching orders, but I can't thank you enough, Senator Sanders, for coming out to the 13th District and coming out to Michigan. Thank you so much. Again, a round of applause, Senator Sanders.